really important that we begin to change the mindset of young people to know that your vote counts.
They don't understand that the legislative arm of government is actually a co-equal arm of government.
We have an incredible amount of potential.
Whatever it is I was doing, because of my personal DNA, it had to be of an international standard.
Which is what, seriously speaking, is all about. We couldn't stop because there's still a lot of things to talk about. So I'm sure you'll be very pleased to hear that I still have Dr. Ezekwesili here with me so that we can finish this conversation and probably put a nail in the coffin of all those cynical people who believe that this is not what it is. So I'm glad that you're still here. I'm glad you're giving me some more time to continue this conversation. And the reason I also want to do this is to help people to see what you see and we don't see. You talk about Esther Yakubu, for example. You know, in this whole journey, how has this journey changed you as a person?
You know, it made me realize how much I took for granted. Number one is this matter of voice. You know, as someone in the field of public policy, would always know that voice is correlated to economic and social status. But it wasn't until I had to do this, directly relating with some of these parents, almost on a family basis, where they became an extension of my family, more or less, that I realized that I took so much for granted. Having been given the opportunity of education, and education opening the doors of a great career in life, and then having the social status that I have had, and the kind of power that comes with voice, I could no longer take it for granted. Because if my elite class had been affected by the Boko Haram tragedy of abduction, it wouldn't have required my coming out.
They would have been found faster.
They would have been found faster. So many things we take for granted became very clear to me in this process. The second thing that I learned in the course of this was how it is that I was right that, you know, our so-called political process is not in any way differentiated along party lines. Our problem is not a problem of political parties. Our problem is a problem of the political class. Because the same attitude that the previous administration gave to our advocacy is the same attitude that we've received from another, government that is from another political party. So it's really the matter of the sense that those who govern do not naturally feel inclined toward accountability. It just is something that's clear. So accountability for us is regime or administration neutral, but you can say that the reaction to that is similar. So that says to you that our democracy is still fledgling, is still in its nascent stages, and that citizens must continue to grow the capacity to demand accountability, no matter how much resistance those that govern put to your demand. This was an important lesson. Another lesson for me was, seeing how the diversity of the voices that have stood for our Chibok girls for the 916 days. In the process of this advocacy, I became friends with younger people. Mm-hmm. I became friends with Muslim women. I became friends with those who don't even believe that there is God. I became friends with other Christians. I became friends with Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo.
It opened your eyes to
it was amazing. Look, the BBOJ is the Nigeria of our dream, in the sense that the only thing that mattered and matters to the people who come every day to the Unity Fountain. And that's one thing people don't even realize. Every day at the Unity Fountain, initially it used to be 3 to 4, and then it was 4 to 5. These days we do it 5 to 6 so that people would all actually have closed from work. So every day there is a group that still sits demanding for our Chibok girls. People would only follow when they see us doing a march on the street, but they don't realize that every day we are there, and this is a group of united Nigerians that did not even know one another until it happened. So unity in diversity is absolutely possible, but it must be around a shared cause. So what have we often said is our shared cause? It is the fact that there is something called shared humanity, that our Chibok girls are human beings. No Nigerian is more Nigerian than any other Nigerian, as Aisha Yusufu would normally say. And then, we have we over time developed what we call our core values as a movement. And the greatest thing about the movement is sacrifice. When people say Nigerians cannot sacrifice,
you laugh.
I saw a different thing.
The thing is, what I find interesting, and I'm very glad I'm doing this because I'm getting educated myself. And I'm hoping that our viewers, I know that they're getting educated as well. I like what you said about the shared humanity that has kept this cause going, right? But I want to take you back to the question of political leadership. What are the lessons we can take from this into our leadership, when we sit to vote for leaders, for example?
So so we've got this shared humanity, and then we've got the second foundation on which our advocacy is built, and we call it social contract. Mm-hmm. The social contract, the obligation that the nation state owes citizens by virtue of the fact that citizens delegated their own powers to them. Mm-hmm. That's necessary. And the social contract theory requires that those to whom you have delegated your power should account in the use of that power to you.
We've never thought like that.
And so we never thought like that in a way that was systematic and structured. So by the BBOG, the Bring Back Our Girls movement, saying, we are never going to stop demanding. We don't care who gets into government. Whoever it is, the responsibility to get back our Chibok girls who went to school and were abducted belongs to government. That's your constitutional mandate. It's not indexed to the name of a human being. It is indexed to the constitutional provisions on what government ought to do. The welfare and the security of citizens is the primary responsibility of government. Mm-hmm. So on the basis of that understanding, the Bring Back Our Girls movement, no matter how many people accuse it of all kinds of things, we don't listen. We simply say, what are we demanding? Bring back our girls. That's your responsibility. You must perform that responsibility. So that's another important element to the advocacy.
So we will go to the fountain to go and check out to be sure that this
great.
It would be nice for us.
You should definitely go today. Mm-hmm. Come today.
Mm-hmm. To see what it is, so we can show it back as we play this back. Because the thing is, however, I will come back to the reality. Like they say, he who wears the shoes knows where it pinches. So for most Nigerians, their reality is more about survival. So they're thinking of surviving, so they think this is not an important issue. How do you convince such a Nigerian that this is very key to our survival at the end of the day?
Well, I would respond to that by saying to you what I've sometimes experienced as I go around, as a normal citizen. I've had instances where people walked up to me, either at airports or maybe at the supermarket, and they would say, when I look at what you and the group have done concerning our Chibok girls, I feel like if anything went wrong with my child, there would be people who would stand with me. Now, that person, for that brief moment, was not thinking about survival. They were thinking that this could come close to home. Okay, so that understanding, and that's what the concept of empathy is all about. Empathy is being able to say, this could happen to me.
Could happen to me.
You know, I recall once when, I entered, as we met to enter a flight, the plane, some gentleman, thinking that this was like comedy, turns to me and says, hey, madam, have you brought back the girls? And I quieted for a minute. Then I looked at him and I said, would you say this if your daughters were amongst those girls? And you know, instantly, his eyes took a different look. And he said, I'm sorry, ma. I didn't think of it like that.
I'll take a break at this point. I'll take a break. And then when I return, we'll talk about other things that Dr. Ezekwesili is getting into. Has the BBOG consumed her? I don't know. We'll find out in a short while.
What are we demanding?
Bring back our girls now.
What are we demanding?
Bring back our girls now. And
What are we asking for?
the truth, nothing but the truth.
What do we want?
Our girls back now and alive.
When shall we stop?
Not until our girls are back and alive.
When shall we stop?
Not without our
Who
daughters.
are we? Who are we?
Nigeria.
What's our core value?
Humanity.
What are we fighting for?
The soul of Nigeria.
The fight for our Chibok girls
The fight for the soul of Nigeria.
and the world. Mr. President,
No more excuses.
Mr. President,
No more delay.
Mr. President,
Decide now.
Mr. President,
Act now.
we want more results. We want more results.
Welcome back, and I'm glad you're still here with us. But I wonder, though, is it the girls that consume all of your time? Because you're now resident in Abuja. You go around the world, but Abuja is like home for you.
Abuja should be home for me. You don't want me to be Nigerian anymore.
I do.
But, I have the responsibility where I actually work as a senior economic advisor to a couple of presidents that I advise in the management of their economy. So in the past, before I had to spend a lot more time on the issue of our Chibok girls, it used to require my having to live in countries, in those specific countries, 10 days every quarter. And so at some point, we had to reduce my frequency of travel to reside in those countries, because I would stay those 10 days with the president and their cabinets, walking through their economic programs. So that is still on. At the height of it, we had to figure a way to use a lot of technology to do my work. And so, regardless of where I am, that's my daily work. That's work that has not stopped.
That's what pays the
And then,
bills.
of course, I serve on a number of global boards and, do quite a number in that regard. But my daily life is filled with writing policy notes that are helpful to these leaders.
So Nigeria is going through a recession right now. Do you agree that that's what's happening?
Oh, technical definition of a recession shows clearly that we are in a recession.
What's very technical and non-technical?
No, it's real because, you could be in a recession in the way that the economy is, and technically, if you looked at what growth is showing, what's technical, what's definition? Definitionally, you're in a recession where you have had 2 successive negative growth rates, okay? So there are times when people are feeling, we are in a recession, but the growth rate is not saying that you're in a recession, all right? So now, there's no doubt that we are in a recession. So working our way out of the recession is what should be the agenda of everybody. And working our way out of recession is something that should not be too problematic, because many countries have been in recessions and walked away from recession.
You walked away better?
When you're in a recession, there are two possibilities. You could either do the right things and quickly walk away from the recession, or you could do the wrong things and
Sink deeper.
Go from recession to depression. God forbid that that should be our case. The economic policy choices that a government makes can quickly take a country out of recession. When we had a global financial that became a global economic crisis, 2008, 2009, and onward, a number of countries quickly went out of recession in places like Europe because they pursued the right sets of policies. Others sank deeper. So I give you an example. A country like Ireland was seriously thrown into recession, but it quickly pursued the right sets of macroeconomic policies, structural policies, microeconomic type policies, and was able to climb out of recession. The opposite was Greece. Greece decided to ignore all the signs and the very costly and tough policy choices it needed to make at that time. And as it navel-gazed, it sank deeper. And before you knew it, it was a global classic case of economic failure.
Just listening to the story of Ireland and Greece, I wonder where Nigeria falls in this case and how easy it would be for Nigeria to bounce back given our peculiar political environment.
Peculiar political environment.
Yeah, when Nigerians are in a hurry or they want to see things or I don't know.
Yeah, look, sometimes I seem to empathize with that desire to see change and to see results urgently. The reason is that we have absolutely no reason to be a country that still has more than 60% of our people in the poverty bracket. So you can understand the urgency on the part of the poor for things to be better. The thing, though, is that when you talk about our peculiar political climate, I think that what's peculiar about our political climate is, having a political class that sometimes is insensitive to the necessity to do right by the people. That's what should worry us. In a situation where you have an austerity condition in the country, and then you say that some significant portion of the political class really don't care about that. It doesn't resonate with them that people, there's suffering going on in the land. Then there's a disconnect between those that govern and those that they govern. But to the larger issue of where does Nigeria fall in the spectrum between Ireland, done better policies to address economic crisis, Greece, a basket case that ignored the necessary sound policies that it should take. You could say that we're somewhere, between that. Let's
assume this is Ireland and this is Greece. A little to this side or a little to that side?
I would probably say going, in the middle of it. So a bit of Ireland, you can tilt in any direction. My sense is that the government really missed an amazing opportunity.
That's this current government.
The current government, because you see, the crisis was already on.
People don't believe
during the previous administration.
People don't believe that.
No, it was already on, because already you had seen growth moving from dimensions of 6 to 5 on the average to the last growth rate of about 3.8%, during the time of the previous administration. So when you see growth begin to cut short like that, you're beginning to have some challenge. And by the way, the oil prices that form the basis for so much looseness in government expenditure was losing as much as 60% of its level even by that time. So the opportunity that was missed by the administration, this administration, when it took over in May, was that it did not just go boom, boom, boom. That was a missed opportunity. Usually, when a new government gets in at the coattail of a crisis, it would do like a President Obama did. President Obama knew that he was inheriting a parlous economy, that if he did not radically do some things, he was going to just sink the country into more or less a depression.
So that delay
was too costly. It was too costly. It was like being in a hole and digging deeper. So that delay, and then the fact that when the government now began to try to do some things, the first set of choices it made were awful policies. I've said this publicly before. Awful policies. I mean, like, those policies were just not right. They were not right. And then when they eventually found the mind to correct them, they corrected them so reluctantly that the signal that was sent out there to local and foreign investors was, they may,
You're talking here about devaluation, for example.
It's not even just about devaluation. It's what you do, what you choose to do about realigning your currency when a major component of your economy that generates that foreign currency has undergone a shock. Mm-hmm. It has to be according to the principles of basic economics. You no longer had enough dollars you were generating. Pretending that you could determine the price of that dollar by command and control was wrong policy. If nobody would tell the government, I would tell the government every day.
Because you are not seeking employment?
I have no...
appointment.
What do I need that for? I mean, for goodness sake, since I left government in 2007, I have turned down every call to come and be a minister again. I have turned it down.
Why, by the way? I wonder.
Because, for goodness sake, I gave 6.5 years of my life. My goodness. People who were in government with us would tell you that I wasn't just a regular kind of person in government. I worked like there was no tomorrow because I actually believed. I believed that we could change the storyline. I was tired of hearing from my classmates that I had gone to school with abroad, saying to me, why is your country a basket case? Why is your country, a country of just potentials that never just makes it? They compare my country with countries like Malaysia and Singapore. And it so annoyed me. And so, being in government, we gave it our best shot. Look, I did the work on the due process they worked on the law and they became Bureau for Public Procurement. NEITI, Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. I went to solid minerals. I did that work. Anymore. I went to education. I did that work. For goodness sake, what do I need to prove? I have nothing to prove to anyone. I gave my best shot at it.
So our girls, we're going to end with our girls. What are your thoughts on that? And what's your prayer? What do you want every other Nigerian to do to ensure that our girls are returned?
To make sure that the 197 of them that we know to be the ones that are not yet back, they must be brought back. Whatever it was.
In whatever condition.
Whatever it was, Esther Yakubu said, whatever condition my daughter is in, just bring my daughter back to me. She's my baby.
Do you fear that they may be dead, though? Someone may be dead.
Then we would know that that's the story, okay? There has to be that evidence. There has to be evidence. And I think it's safe to say 197 girls are still missing and available to be rescued. And so if anyone is saying any other thing, that counterfactual has to be provided.
Tell me what you felt like when the 21 girls came.
I cried.
You interacted with them?
All I did was cry. I haven't even interacted with the girls. I haven't. And it doesn't matter.
It's not about
the most important people, their parents, have held their daughters. You saw the mother carry that girl on her back. For me, that was it. All I did the day the news came out, I was actually not in the country. I cried. I cried all through. I didn't even get to the point where
So you didn't know they were coming out?
You know, no, I'd gotten the information that something was likely going to happen. And I was like this. And then when it became true, I thought I was going to start screaming or something. I just started crying. And all through that day, I cried. And, you know, for me, as far as I'm concerned, we must stay resilient. We must never give up on any issue that is important to our society. That's how societies build their ethos, their principles, their values, their behaviors. That's how they build who they are. Who are we is defined by the things we value. We've put a value on our Chibok girls, and we must put a value on every other thing that matters for the progress of our society.
Thank you very much, Beth.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Now, let's get back to the rest of your day.
With honor, I wear this with honor, really. And I like color red.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us. And we are now a member of Bring Back Our Girls.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. We shall always fight for our girls. All we are saying is bring back our girls now and alive. All we are saying is bring back our girls now and alive. All we are saying is bring back our girls now and alive.
What are we demanding?
Bring back our girls now and alive.
What are we asking?
The truth, nothing but the truth.
What do we want?
Our girls back now and alive.
When shall we stop?
Not until our girls are back and alive.
When shall we stop?
Not without our daughters.
Who are we?
Chibok girls.
Who are we?
Nigeria.
What's our core values?
Humanity.
What are we fighting for?
The soul of Nigeria.
The fight for our Chibok girls.
It's a fight for the soul of Nigeria and the world.
Mr. President.
No more excuses.
Mr. President.
No more delays.
Mr. President.
Decide now.
Mr. President.
Act now. We want more results.
Thank you all.
It's amazing to find that for the past over 1.5 years, 2 years now, these people have been sitting out there between 5 and 6. Sometimes it was between 3 and 4, but now it's between 5 and 6, just staying true to what they believe in. And that really is what our message is on this show today. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next week. Bye.